I've only come to muck about on the Isle of Arran for a few days. It's absolutely gorgeous. Not been before. I don't know what to expect. I've not really spent much time researching it, so I wanted it to be a bit of a surprise. I mean, I planned the route and everything, but other than that, it's quite tempting just to look at other people's YouTube videos to see what it's like before you come, but I thought that'd spoil it, so really don't know what to expect. Doing the Arran coastal way. It's like 64 miles, and I'm going to try and just do it over a couple of days, 2 or 3 days I think. Like maybe about a half day today, do about 14 miles today, and then try and get the brunt of the rest of it done over day 2 and day 3. I've got rough ideas of where I'm going to camp, but other than that, just leaving it up to fate really, see what happens. A couple of miles in at the moment, and it's just starting to get off what was like a Land Rover track, so it started to get quite scenic, a little bit rocky. I've noticed that the heather's flowered here. I don't know if that just happens earlier in Scotland. I don't know if that's because late summer arrives earlier here, I don't know, but it's really nice though. It's absolutely gorgeous. Look at this. This section's not actually on the route, but who can resist a trig point? Just this is the view from where I am at the moment. I don't know how much elevation I've got on day one, not a lot according to the map, so I thought I might well make the most of it and just get a feel of the surroundings. Like, check out this island off the island. This is quite a tricky section. There's tons of seaweed over rocks and it's super slippy, and then there's grassy knoll bits which are easier to walk on, but there's just there's big holes that open up, and I've nearly fallen over a couple of times. It's a pretty technical section. I think I'm gonna have to see. I'm about halfway through. I've just looked at the map. I think I'm about halfway across this beach stretch before I get back onto a footpath, and it's taken a fair while. I think just have to see how I get on with my intended camp spot, because I might not make it there on time. Well, I might not make it there before it's dark, but I don't know, it's quite easy to forget that it doesn't really matter. Like when you're so used to being stressed out when you're not keeping time properly, or when you're going to be late for something, and then you realise it doesn't fucking matter if I'm going to be a bit later than I anticipated. I've got everything I need on my back, like literally everything I need for 3 days. Like, if I don't get to where I intended to camp, then I'll find somewhere else. It's not really a big deal. I think it's quite important to remind yourself sometimes that it's just sometimes just easy to get stressed out when it doesn't really, when the situation doesn't really warrant it. Actually, a bust ankle, that might warrant it though. getting quite dusky now. It's been really tricky underfoot. It's taken me loads longer to do this stretch than I thought, just because so much of it's on rocky beach and slippery seaweed underfoot. So like, I'm about 2.5 miles off from where I thought I was going to camp. But to be honest, I'll probably just find a spot. The next decent spot I come across, I'll just pitch up there. It's a little bit pastoral, like there's just farmland where I am at the moment, so I don't really want to camp the night here, but hoping I get a bit further down this stretch of coast, then there'll be hopefully just some flat land that isn't going to be bothering anyone. You always get filled, I do, I get like filled with like a sense of foreboding when you're losing the light and you don't really know where you're sleeping for the night. Get low-key stressed until I've actually found a spot and I've got my tent up and my sleeping bag out, and then I can start to chill out. But until then, it always feels a bit sketchy. But I think like that's what I love about these trips though, is that you have like moments where you feel a bit out of your comfort zone and you do get a bit worried about stuff, but it's what makes the high so much better when you have the lows. Come to a stretch here where it's just fenced off and I don't really know a way across. I'm going to have to head back out towards the sea and then cut back round.
Good morning. So last night got pretty sketchy. There ended up being a really long section of this path that was over really slippy, slimy boulders, just covered in seaweed, and there's essentially a 4-hour section where there's no discernible path at all. And there's a few times where the GPS kind of cuts inland, so I followed it and figured that I was going to pick up the path somehow, and it would just lead to just really tricky terrain, like loads of thorns. I ended up picking about 3 thorns out of my leg and 1 out of my hand this morning. I was growing increasingly tired, so I started making some really poor decisions, and there was a couple of points where I was climbing up the rocks and close to a point of no return actually, when I realised that it didn't lead anywhere, and finally kind of found some sandy bit of beach, which I assumed was where on the map that I decided that I was going to camp for the night. But even then, like there's a few guest houses scattered along, and I didn't really want to camp anywhere where I was in sight of the guest house and make anyone feel uncomfortable. Eventually I ended up just camping in a playground, and pitched up. It's gone 11:30 by the time I got all pitched up, and I was far too knackered to eat anything. Literally just rehydrated and went to sleep. I think because I haven't really done much preparation or planning for this trip, so I want it to be a bit of a surprise, I've ended up like shooting myself in the foot and just end up in a situation where I just don't know whether I'm going to cover the amount of terrain that I had planned. If it's anything like yesterday, there's no way that it's feasibly possible for me anyway to do a 20-odd mile day. I just had these visions of just lots of nice little flat Land Rover tracks, and then just being able to bosh out about 20 odd mile days, and it's not going to happen. Not if it's anything like yesterday anyway. But I've woken up and it's mild. It's a really lovely morning. The sun's shining for the first time in what seems like, I don't know, months. I haven't seen the sunshine for ages. So I'm in good spirits. I'm gonna have a coffee, have some breakfast, and then crack on the rest of the day.
So that section was similar to yesterday. It was loads of rocks, not slippy, a lot easier underfoot, but there's just no way of running it. So the likelihood of me covering 20 odd miles today is minimal. So I've had a bit of a rethink. What I think I'm going to do is get a bus from, there's a hamlet just up here apparently. I think there's a hotel with a bus stop. I can get a bus back to Brodick, which is where the ferry terminal is. But what I'll do then is hike up. There's a campsite that I can just be guaranteed some flat ground and some water, which is literally all I need to camp. And I just struggled yesterday to find it. I don't really fancy a similar situation this evening, so I'm going to go up to a campsite. I think it has like an honesty box. I don't know if it's actually a manned campsite, but I'm guaranteed the flat grass. And then tomorrow I'll hike up Goat Fell, which is like the thing I was most looking forward to. And I think it's just it's in the foothills of Goat Fell, I think, this campsite. So yeah, that's the plan. So that's camp set up at a campsite called Glen Rosa, which is really stunning actually. It's bare bones, there's not much more than cold water and some flat pitches, and it's got a £5 honesty box. Absolutely gorgeous surroundings. You can see up to the Clag, which I think beyond that is where Goat Fell is, which I'm going to head tomorrow morning. It's been good to get pitched up quite early and let my shoes dry off and my socks dry out, and then my feet as well. They were really starting to suffer because they'd just been wet constantly for the last 2 days, so it's been getting them into a good state of repair. Really looking forward to getting up on the summit tomorrow actually, and then just having a look over Arran, be able to pick up some of the kind of walks that I've done and see all the stunning landscape from a high vantage point. Sometimes feel that when you're kind of doing treks that are all at kind of sea level, you tend to miss out on a lot of the things. I think I'm definitely a summiteer rather than a coastal walker. But yeah, I'm going to get a good night's sleep tomorrow and then head out tomorrow morning. So apparently these fells were donated to the good people of Scotland by Lady Jean Ford. If someone tells you that they own a mountain, you tell them different. Morning. So what difference a day makes? Like, I slept really well. Really comfy spot, really flat, lovely. Like to hear the sound of water as you're sleeping. There's nothing really beats it. My feet have recovered. Socks are dry, full of beans, and I'm just can't wait for this one. I think this is going to be the day. After just feeling a little bit defeated yesterday, just to be up in these fells, in these mountains, just exploring. Like, I don't know, what gets me up in the morning. There's nothing really better than this for me. So having that, can't wait. It's windy, but I'm not really minding that because it means the midges will keep away. There's a few knocking around this morning when I was having my breakfast. It's not quite blowing a hoolie, it's like probably like one down from that. What's one down from a hoolie? Let me know. So that's Goatfell done. Really beautiful at the top, great summit, great view. Just hot footing it down now. You can see Brodick in the distance, which is where I'll be getting my ferry from. And it's been a cracking day actually. Ended up being a bit of a loop rather than out and back, which always makes it more interesting. But I'll check in when I'm back down, do a bit of a summary of the trip actually. It's had its highs and its lows. It's been fantastic and all. Learned so much. And I'll speak to you in a bit. So this dumbass forgot to record the outro at the ferry terminal, so it's the next day, I'm back at home now. What can I say about Arran? Just a truly spectacular place. You generally need to travel a bit further afield to find similar landscapes in Scotland. It reminded me a lot of the Cairngorms or Glencoe, but scaled down. A lot of people call Arran Scotland in miniature, which I think is a fair assessment. If I was going to do it again, I'd do a bit of reading up on the route description, just so I wouldn't be caught out next time. And I think that's given me a bit of food for thought for similar trips moving forward. There's a really fine line between leaving enough of the unknown to have a proper adventure, but at the same time having enough research carried out so that you're not going to fall short or get caught out like I did. Final thoughts. I think if when you go to Brodick, go check out it's like a sandwich shop and a pastry place called Woolies. They do this incredible vegetable pizza wrap, which after 3 days of dehydrated meals and nuts, it was well welcome, I can tell you. I really appreciate you watching this, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.